Welcome to the Ask Weldon show. Today we're going to talk about minigames, training esport skills using minigames, how to learn team fighting, and being an outcast and yet staying humble. Welcome to the Ask Weldon show. I am Weldon, and this is the show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Usually they are about sports psychology or esport coaching or just life and sport and performance psychology in general. And people submit questions to the show by using the hashtag AskWeldon on Twitter, or you can use my Discord. So below the YouTube video and the Twitch channel, I'm streaming this live on Twitch, by the way, so if you want to participate in this show, the pre-show and the after-show, make sure to catch it at twitch.tv/mindgamesweldon. But anyway, below the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel, you will find a link to my Discord, and there is a channel in there called The Ask Weldon Show, where you can type questions and you can also record your audio questions. I prefer audio questions for the show. I prioritize audio questions, so if you spam the Twitter and you spam the channel and you can't get your question on the show, just do an audio question and you'll 100% get it right on. The system for asking the questions, I'm going to go through it right now because it's brand new, but basically you go into the audio channel somewhere on my Discord and you type in the Ask Weldon show, or in the bot channel, you type Craig join. And there's a little instructions on how to do that. It has to be like Craig, comma, join. And this little bot will jump into the channel with you, and then you just talk to it. And you say, hey, blah, 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 blah. That's my question. Then you leave the channel. You type Craig, leave. It leaves the channel too, and it sends you a little link for your question. And you can download it and then throw it into the Ask Weldon show, and I will grab it from there and put it right on the show for you. We're also going to do call-in shows eventually using the Discord, so make sure that you have that Discord, in your list. Make sure that you have that channel, the Ask Weldon show channel, you have notifications on, because that is where we will, that's where I'll announce when we're going to do, also the announcements channel, obviously. That's where I will announce that we're going to do a call-in show, and you guys can hop into the Discord and be on the show live with me. Okay, so with that cleared out of the way, let's jump into the first question. And the first question today is from Twitter. Kino Gaming asks, I've seen lots of pros talk about needing to play 12 hours a day, but you've said before most people only have about 4 hours of decision-making a day. Is what they're doing counterproductive, and would it be helpful to squeeze practice into a smaller window? Okay, so pros talk about training 12 hours a day. Before, I've referenced decision fatigue, said that studies have shown that people have, about 4 hours of decision-making, executive decision-making prowess in their brain before they start to get decision fatigued, et cetera, et cetera. So is what you're doing when you train more than 4 hours counterproductive, and would it be helpful to squeeze practice into a smaller window? Okay, so first of all, it's always helpful to squeeze practice into a smaller window, because that means you can practice more. So yes, you should always be trying to squeeze practice smaller so that you can fit in more practice later. That is the ultimate goal of all practice, is to compress it, I would say. There's some practice you don't want to compress it, and it doesn't matter. Like, I think yoga. You can't really compress yoga into a smaller window, or you're cheating, and then it's ineffective. So there's stuff like that, But I would say maybe yoga was already compressed into the smallest window it could be, in a lot of ways. So maybe that's what I said is not true. Maybe what I said is just nowadays it doesn't look like you can, because it's already been squeezed, completely squeezed. So let's go back to the question about esport. Is what they're doing counterproductive? No, because it doesn't matter how tired you are making decisions when you're training a muscular reaction system. So your brain is always learning when you're doing drill training, right? When you're training your muscles. If you're just like kicking the soccer ball around against a wall and you mess up the kick a little, even if you're decision fatigued, your brain is learning. You're not making a hard decision here. You're just trying to get your foot angle just right, and you're focusing just a little bit on your foot angle, and you're messing it up, and your brain is learning the foot angle a little bit better and a little bit better, every single time that you kick. And maybe when you're super tired, the kick, it's taking longer to learn it. It's harder to focus, and you're not getting as effective training out of it. But you're still getting slightly better every time you're kicking the soccer ball against the wall, even though you're exhausted. So the same is true for league. You're not training chess, right? You're not training physics. You're not training these kind of like purely academic and knowledge-based and information-based systems in your brain. You are training muscles. You're training seeing a pattern, reacting to that pattern with a specific movement. And so in order to train that reaction speed, not reaction speed, in order to train that expertise, repetition is the only way to do it. Volume-based training. It's how the brain learns these kinds of things, unfortunately. And so, yeah, you're always learning something. Here's an example of how I structured training with TSM. I was just actually talking about this yesterday. I was on a phone call with some people that you might know. Daylor, the old Fanatic coach. He's not old. I mean, he was a Fanatic coach previously. And we were talking about one of the things that I did at TSM in terms of training load, which was we had 6 games during the day, and then we had an extra training block. So most LCS teams will train 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They'll train 2 blocks, 3 games each. And then at TSM, we trained another 3 blocks when we were able to. And we would train them against usually challenger teams. We would train them against teams that were not strategically good. So that if we made a bunch of decision-based mistakes, like a bunch of really stupid calls or whatever, that we wouldn't lose the game, right? Because they weren't good enough to punish us for making stupid strategical errors. And instead, we focused on just fighting, just skirmishing and fighting and skirmishing and fighting, and that's it. And the reason was because the thing that you learn without trying is you learn the patterns and the reactions that you need in a team fight and a skirmish just by doing it, by playing with the champions in your comp over and over again. You get better at playing with the champions in your comp. So the 50th time you coordinate your stun and your combo with Alistair Vladimir versus the 20th time you do it, you're better. Like, even if you did it when you were tired, those extra 30 times. So the goal was to get as much repetition of combos with the champions we were going to draft as humanly possible, so that everybody could just completely automate the feeling of what it's like to play with those champions in a comp and to play against those champions. Because we were playing challenger teams, we were often able to request certain opposing champs that they would play for us. So the last block had nothing to do with falling asleep at the wheel in terms of decision making, and we would make far many more mistakes in the actual strategy of the training. People didn't have the discipline to withhold from the fight. They would just go all at it, and that's how we did the training. So I want you to think of kind of League of Legends training or your solo queue training as 2 really different modes, right? So when you're tired, you can still train one of them. Now, does that make sense for non-pros? Not really. If you're a pro, you have to do this to keep up with the Joneses. If you're a pro, you have to do this to stay a pro. If you're not a pro, I would not recommend delving into this rabbit hole, right? Where you can literally train from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. There's no need to be there. You can get to a very high rank. You can get to a scoutable level without optimizing your play that much. And so your goal should be to get to a scoutable level by compressing your training, make it as efficient as possible, and then spamming it without completely disrupting your life and your health and everything about it. And then if you prove that you're able to do that to yourself and to the system, then when you go pro, you can worry about becoming the best. Unless you're like a streamer, you're making your money somewhere else and you just want to be the best in the world, and so you're just going to go all at it. But yeah, if you're hedging your life on becoming pro and you're thinking, I need to train like them, I would recommend proving to yourself first that you can get to a scoutable level on less games than pros play, and then once you go pro, optimizing. The same situation as Biofrost. Biofrost was able to get scouted by TSM and go pro from the challenger scene, essentially by playing fewer games than he does as a pro, by training less intensely, right? He was able to go to school, maintain friendships, and do kind of like a balanced life. And then, because he was able to make his practice so efficient, and he was able to focus so hard that he was able to improve all the way, to challenger level on fewer games than all-out spam all day. Then once he was able to play more games in a day, the fact that he had focused on training even more from fewer games meant that he had these systems in place that allowed him to increase his skill level very drastically. So let me put it in another way. Let's say you're playing 12 games a day, and then you go pro and you play 12 games a day. you're not going to get strictly better off of increasing volume, right? Because you're playing the same amount of games. So you're not going to have this huge boost in skill. But let's say you're training 12 games a day now, and you focus on training 8 and then training 6. And you try to get the same amount of learning and rank climbing out of 6 games as you did previously out of 12. So you get really good at learning from every game. You know, you're VOD reviewing, you're studying, you're thinking about it in the game. You know, you're making plans, you're visualizing. We're going to talk about that next. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get, okay, don't mess this up. You know, and you're prepping yourself, and you're just milking those 6 games for all that they're worth. Then you go pro, and all of a sudden you get bumped up to playing 12 games a day again. And your skill level just shoots through the roof because you're used to playing 6 and getting full learning out of it, right? So I'm saying this as a plan, not to like try to get people to quit and not go pro and realize they can't go pro, but like with an outlook towards your mental health and your ability to become a good pro, which is that you want to focus on the effectiveness of your training now, so that when you take the lid or the limiter off of the volume of your training when you do go pro, that you explode. Okay. Long answer to a actually technically long question because it took up 4 lines in my Excel spreadsheet. So let's jump into the next one. Thank you. And this one is from Ryan.
Hi, Weldon. I noticed when I play AD carry a lot from watching my VOD reviews that I tend to struggle pretty hard with who to focus in team fights, or even really early all-ins in the 2v2 lane or the 3v3 if the junglers come down. And I tend to notice a lot of times when watching VOD reviews that I should have switched focuses or focused a different target, and we might have won the team fight. If this were you and you were going into your games for the day, what would be your mental mindset to try and work on this skill throughout each and every day so that you can improve at the game?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Ryan. How to prep to learn team fights. Okay, so here's what I would do. First of all, you're doing the VOD review part, so that's great. So let's talk about what the other steps you can do to learn team fighting is. First of all, get the mind ready. So I want you to get pretty good at imagery and visualization, and be going into the game, I want you to prepare to learn this skill, which means to visualize your learnings, visualize the things you learned, look at your champ. Okay, look at their champs, look at your champs, and visualize what a skirmish is going to be like. A skirmish is your support and the opposing AD carry and support and jungler and your jungler against each other. So a 3v3 with your jungler against their jungler, right? This is a skirmish. You should visualize it. Or maybe in the mid laner comes down, right? Probably it's going to be their mid laner, not yours. I mean, it's always their mid laner that roams on you, 50 times. So visualize their mid laner coming and how you would play that out, right? How would you do target select? Which skill do you have that interrupts a crucial skill that they have? If you're Vayne and you have your knockback, you're thinking, okay, I want to stun priority target for kill on the offense. On the defense, you want to think about the most high priority channeled spell to interrupt or combo to take care of, and you want to make sure that that's what you're timing for, right? So you want to visualize these things as strongly as you can loading into the game. And then you anticipate. So you get ready for these decision-making moments. And when they come, when you're going into a team fight or a skirmish, you really want to center yourself. You want your brain to be racing, but you want it to feel like the eye of a storm, the calm in the chaos, right? You have to not tunnel vision. So you need to be centering yourself, which is a very mindful technique, and expanding your thinking. You have to try to find the space between every decision where you can calculate and think within the team fight, I want to do this now, and then actually do it. But it takes place so quickly in your mind that you actually are able to practice it. Okay, then right afterwards, mentally, you should correct. The most powerful learning moment for the brain chemically is right after the error occurs. So you should kind of review it in your head. Now, ideally in League of Legends, ideally in any sport, you want to do a drill and you want to stop and you want to study it afterwards or think about it afterwards, right? But you can't in League of Legends because you have to play a game. So hopefully you lose the team fight and you die, and you can kind of go through it in your head and you can replay it. If you have an external capture thing that is capturing and you can replay the last 45 seconds, it would be far more useful to actually watch it than to visually replay it. If you win the team fight, maybe you can just auto attack a turret or something like that, or a dragon or whatever while you're reviewing it and not have to think about the game too much. Normally with pros, I train them not to do this. I want them in the game the whole way for the training, because that's the training effect we're going for, is winning the game. I don't want them to get slightly better at team fighting. That's going to happen naturally, and that's for solo queue also. But I don't want them reviewing the team fight right after the team fight. I want them thinking about how to win the game. But for solo queue training and for training champions, training team fighting, this is how you do it. You need to think about it right afterwards. And then VOD review to correct your misassumptions. So then you do the VOD review after the game if you weren't able to do it in the game, and you correct all of your mistaken assumptions. So I would visualize what you were thinking was right. Okay, you were thinking, okay, I thought I saw this, I felt this, this is what I should have done, and this is what was vulnerable. Then you watch the VOD review. Oh, I was wrong. Wow, I remembered that totally wrong, okay? So you have to notice the delta between what you visualized and what was real. That is the most powerful way to mess up when you're doing the VOD review. So you should make sure that you kind of like before the VOD review, try to think of that fight and what happened. So you want to have a very accurate mental representation of the game inside your head, like a perfect one if you can. So you got to practice that, and then VOD review to correct it. And then revisualize. So then after you get the correct fight in your head, so you're thinking now this is what the perfect team fight should have been, then you visualize that. So you play it through like a movie in your head. And the reason this is important is because with visualization, you're actually activating the same motor neurons as, neuromuscular neurons as you would if you were doing the actual actions. So I want you to visualize not your champion doing it, but I want you to visualize you doing it to your champion. So with your mouse and your keyboard, this is a key thing I should have said at the beginning, but visualize yourself manipulating the mouse and the keyboard to cause your champion to do the correct thing on the screen. Don't just visualize an in-game scene, okay? Because that is not as powerful as visualizing your muscle movements, doing the actions that cause the in-game scene to occur correctly. Okay, so that's it. That's how to prep in order to learn team fights. Thanks for the question, Ryan. Packed a lot of information into there, so if you have any questions about any of that, make sure to re-ask it on the next show. Okay, Kino Cohen asks from Twitter, what are your thoughts about using Osu as a way to improve mechanically in League? Also, I love your content. Huh, thanks for that. I can't believe I left that in. I meant to delete. I usually delete all the little happy phrases and stuff like that, but I missed that one. So thank you for that. This is a question from December 23rd, 2016. So let's see, 2018, 17. So 2 years late. Sorry about that. Actually, it's not 2 years late technically because we're not to December yet. Oh. So, using Osu and other minigames as a way to improve mechanically in League of Legends. So I don't like it. I don't think that if you have time to play League, you should probably just play League. The training effect of something else onto the main thing is really dependent on how close it is to the actual modeling the actual skill. So when you do drills in soccer, like you're kicking a soccer ball, okay, with another human. And when you're playing Osu, you're not visually seeing anything that you actually need to train your brain to recognize in terms of a pattern. And you're not really clicking accurately on anything that you would need to recognize to click on. Now, it does improve your mouse accuracy and your mouse speed. So mouse accuracy and mouse speed are essential pretty much for any video game. So it will help you get those things right. But then you have to relearn them in League of Legends to apply them. And I say that because if you went into CSGO, you would have, with the same mouse accuracy and mouse speed, you would still suck. You'd have to do a bunch of CSGO drills in order to get better aim, right? To make that mouse accuracy and that mouse speed actually apply. So yes, you should use Osu if you like playing Osu. But no, if you want to be better at League, you should play League of Legends up until you get to a point where you need to optimize, where you're like, okay, I'm as good as I could possibly be, but this person is still better than me. We're training the same. I'm Challenger 2, he's Challenger 1, and I can't seem to beat him. Then that's when you go play Osu. If you're for a training effect. But otherwise, you can play Osu if you think it's fun and you want to improve your mouse accuracy and your mouse speed. because those will benefit you in all computer games slightly. But the thing to actually help you climb in a computer game is playing that particular game. What will help you improve mechanically in League is visualizing your, anticipating your skirmishes and then intentionally trying to click on the target. So forcing yourself to think, okay, so for example, with CS, never using auto attack area, never using just like auto attack closest, but always clicking on the exact minion you want to attack, clicking on the champion for every auto attack, making sure that you anticipate the fight and the skirmish, and then clicking on the particular champion that you want to click on. So anticipating those and forcing yourself to attempt it and then failing or succeeding is one way to train the brain to really take a lot from those small mechanical moments you have in the game. Until we get drills, practice tool is a great way to practice mechanically in League. Okay. Last question, everybody. Before I jump into the last question, I talked a lot about visualization and focus and a little bit about centering. And I wanted to remind you that I have this training program, which is a bunch of online videos. It's an online video course, okay? So it's not a training program with me in particular. But it is a training program by me. I recorded all the videos, so you get to hear my voice every single day for 50 days. And this is the training program that I did with the pro teams that I coached with TSM and CLG and a little bit with G2. And it's the answer to the question I get all the time, which is, will you train me? The answer is yes, here. I'll train you for $25. Go for it. Use the code AskWeldon to drop the price from 30 to 25. And essentially, it trains your focus and your ability to set aside other thoughts and to how do I put this? To set aside other thoughts and to be present in the moment with your training. And more importantly, to be able to commit yourself to a series of actions that you don't feel motivation for. Motivation is an emotion. It's a non-necessary motivation. It's a non-necessary emotion for accomplishing the things you want to accomplish. So if you're able to commit yourself to doing something that you don't particularly feel like doing because you want the outcome of that thing and you value it, then that's what we call discipline, right? And this program essentially teaches you the system behind discipline and allows you to choose what it is you want to be disciplined to. And also, I give you permission, both in the program and now, to not care about things that you don't care about. So this is one of the main problems with discipline today, is people think that they're undisciplined because they don't do the things that society tells them that they need to be doing. They're like, I'm so undisciplined because I'm not getting up early, and I'm so undisciplined because I'm not doing my schoolwork, and I'm so undisciplined because well, okay, maybe you actually just don't value your schoolwork. Like, you don't care. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think society says you are not disciplined. But if you look at your actions, you could be actually incredibly motivated and incredibly disciplined about some things. And those are the things that you care about, right? So it's more about getting your values correctly and figuring out what it is you care about and why you care about it, and trying to shirk off a little bit of what society is telling you is important and choosing what is important based on your own internal compass. Then you can realize your discipline and your motivation, essentially. Now, if that somehow later becomes that you want to get good grades or that you want to go to bed early and get up early, then great, but at least the internal decision for that is what is driving it and not this external pressure. Okay, last question. Whoops, we're not using Anchor anymore. Sorry, I popped up an Anchor icon real quick.
Hey, Weldon. My question is, how can I use the feeling of being outcasted to improve my performance without becoming self-centered? All right, thanks, Weldon. Bye.
Okay, so first of all, that question is dope. You could hear the birds chirping in the background, sounded like. Might have been a squeaky rocking chair, but I like to think it was birds. And Irima, as his username says, was very, kind of Buddhist sounding, kind of laid back. So the question is how to be outcast without being self-centered. First of all, I love how this question is so simple and the way that it's put, because it was so hard to answer. I can answer how to be an outcast and improve your performance. I can answer how to not be self-centered and improve your performance. But how to be outcast and not self-centered and improve your performance, that is a tough one, because I think you have to go through self-centeredness into not being self-centered in order to get there. So We're talking about stages here. If you're not self-centered enough, it's hard to gain performance when you're an outcast. It's hard to gain performance at all if you're not self-centered enough. But then you have to go beyond self-centeredness into the next thing, which is like into a giving and a compassionate and a like self-sacrificial state. So that, yeah. So this is a very hard question. I want to preface this answer by talking about hermits, so eremitics, or basically people who live religious lives outside of society. So we're talking about Buddhist hermits and Christian hermits. And usually these are people who profess that they are very, very religious, right? But they're living outside society, which means they're not really contributing to society, right? And then they're usually relying on society. So they're usually being donated food from people who live nearby or supported completely by families, who will bring them food and clothing and stuff like that. But they're kind of doing it for their own personal benefit, right? They're doing it to purify and to religiously live themselves. But one of the reasons that they're doing it is for the benefit of humankind, right? So they're looking for insight and they're looking for wisdom that they can apply to humanity. And they believe that the actions that they're taking and that the giving that they're doing of their time and their life are for the benefit of all, not just completely self-driven for their own self-righteousness. So I think that the number one, if you look at that from their perspective, it makes sense. If you look at it from another person's perspective, you're like, well, they're just mooches, right? So it starts with intention. It starts completely with intention. Like, what is your intention when you mentally outcast yourself and you say, I will not be self-centered and I will be like a hermit, basically, that I will do this for the benefit of humankind. The intention has to be there from the start of like that this is, larger than yourself. Okay, then the second thing is practice. I don't think that you can be the Evita Peron model where you just like take with the plan to eventually give. I think that's what the musical Evita is about anyway. The idea that like if you take and you're constantly trying to get into a position where you can like finally give, you like just a bit more, and then I can finally be a giving person. Just a bit more, and then I can be just a bit more money, just a bit more skill, just a bit more improvement of myself, and then finally I can turn around and help other people. You're never going to get there. So that's the wrong mindset. It has to start with a practice of compassion and giving, not giving money, but giving whatever, like giving time, giving money, giving energy, giving focus, giving thought, giving prayer, whatever it is. Hermits would probably pray for other people and for the world, a lot of time, and they would think that this would be their practice of giving, most likely. So, number one, intention. Number two, a practice. So you have to find some way of activating that giving gene, the outward focused, outward energetic, like mode where you are taking whatever it is that you have and it's oozing away from you. Okay. And then I think that the practical daily step towards maintaining this kind of mindset is gratefulness. And so that's easy because you can just do gratefulness conditioning, which is you list 3 things you're grateful for every day, and you make sure that you do it with the really local, small things that happened within the last, hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and not these big grandiose ideals that are so large that they're more or less meaningless. You want to be grateful for the things that you don't notice that you should notice. That like we just kind of assimilate and automate and accept because they're always there. Kind of the first world problem idea, right? Like, I'm very grateful for this amazing light that I have that I purchased, blah, blah, blah. And how did I even have the money for that? And now I have this light and it's like waking me up and it's brightening my face. And I just take it for granted when I turn it on every morning. I don't even think about it, right? And I'm grateful for this light, which I actually found in the trash underneath the stairs in Ronanmaki. Gosh, this must have been in 2011 or 2012. And I hadn't even thought from then on that this is where I had it. And the light bulb actually, which I just randomly got from a friend, I think, when they were moving out, and that was years ago, and it's still working. And I haven't needed to buy another one. It's just been sitting here like plugged in, making my face yellow all these years. Before this, I was using it on my desk, actually, now that I think of it. So these kind of things that you just take for granted, you never notice, and you act or you state mentally that you are grateful for them. That's what gratefulness conditioning is, to notice the unnoticed, essentially. So intention, number one, get your intention square, understand what and why you're doing, what you're doing and why you're doing it. Practice. Don't wait till the end to start. Start now. Make it a daily practice. And gratefulness conditioning is one of the ways to train the brain for that kind of mindset. All right, guys. That is the show. What a show today. What a show we had today. I expounded upon these questions. I think that I need caffeine in order to stay more focused and fast on these questions, because I think when I don't have caffeine, I just expound and expand on them. But I hope that it was useful information. I hope that it was interesting information. And thank you so much for your attention. And I will see you guys next time. Right now, I'm going to go back to the Twitch stream. Make sure to go to twitch.tv/mindgamesweldon, and I'm going to chat with them and answer all of the questions that popped up during the recording of the show. So if you want to catch this show live, and if you want to eventually join the call-in show, make sure you follow my Twitch channel and turn on notifications so that you will know when I go live every single night if you live in North America. Morning if you live in the EU, although you're never going to catch my show because it's 4 a.m. It's 5:30 a.m. right now, but we're just wrapping up, right? So yeah, you're never going to catch my show if you live in the EU. Sorry. You're going to have to be a North American to do that. All right, yeah. Ciao.